A road trip to America's iconic Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is more than a massive sculpture carved into the granite face of Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills region of South Dakota. It is one of America's most iconic monuments, symbolizing the birth, the growth, development, and preservation of the United States. Why is it called Mount Rushmore? Who's it named after? The massive sculpture features the 60-foot faces of 4 U.S. presidents. Number 1 is George Washington. He was our first president and represents the birth of the nation. Next to George Washington is Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd president, who symbolizes expansion, notably the Louisiana Purchase. Next to him is Theodore Roosevelt, our 26th president, who represents development and the industrial era. And of course, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, who embodies the preservation of this union during the Civil War. Hang on to the end of this video because there are 2 treats for you. One is a side view of President Washington that most visitors miss. Shh. And a little side trip to nearby Hill City for a couple of tidbits I wanted to share with you, my traveling buddies and armchair travelers. Travel across America with me. The sculptor's name was Gutzon Borglum, an American artist and sculptor. He is the one who led this project. After his death in 1941, his son Lincoln Borglum continued some finishing work. The construction timeline? Well, it began in October of 1927 and was completed, though technically unfinished as originally envisioned, in 1941. The scale? Each presidential head is about 60 feet tall. It was intended to promote tourism in South Dakota and to commemorate major figures in U.S. history. The original plan included the presidents from the waist up, but funding limitations halted the project. I like it just how it is. What do you think? Do you like it? Have you seen it? Tell me in the comments below if you have been to Mount Rushmore. I had heard that there is a hidden hall of records that's behind the monument. Borglum intended to house important U.S. documents there. It was never completed as planned, but does contain a vault with information about the monument. But according to the park ranger I spoke to, there's no public access, even to the replica vault. And as she put it, nothing really to see. The idea for Mount Rushmore came from South Dakota historian Don Robinson in the early 1920s. His goal was to promote tourism in the Black Hills region by creating a massive mountain carving. In 1923, Robinson proposed a large sculpture to attract visitors to the Black Hills. Initially, Robinson envisioned a tribute to the American West that would feature figures such as Lewis and Clark. Oh, I like those guys. And Buffalo Bill Cody. However, Gutzon Borglum, a renowned sculptor, suggested focusing on the 4 presidents whose legacies reflect the country's ideals of democracy and freedom. Borglum, who had previously worked on the Confederate Memorial at Stone Mountain in Georgia, which is a fabulous place to go if you haven't been there, he had proposed a more national focus. He selected 4 presidents who had shaped the country in significant ways. Carving such massive faces into the granite was an enormous engineering feat, and the design required precision and innovative techniques, including dynamite and hand tools, to remove vast amounts of rock from the mountain. The choice of granite was not only for its durability, but also for its symbolic strength. Using dynamite for the rough cuts and smaller tools for the details, about 400 workers helped complete the project. Despite harsh weather and dangerous working conditions, there were no fatalities during the construction. Funding came from a combination of federal, state, and private sources, and the Great Depression tested the project's financial viability. Nevertheless, Borglum persevered, and by 1941, he had sculpted the granite faces on the mountain. After Gutzon Borglum died in 1941, his son Lincoln took over. Work officially ended later that year as the U.S. entered World War II and funding dried up. Washington represents the birth of the United States. Jefferson symbolizes its expansion and democratic ideals. Lincoln signifies its preservation during a critical time, and Roosevelt embodies the country's development into an industrial power. I had always heard that he had chosen to put Teddy Roosevelt up there because they were personal friends. Roosevelt loved both North and South Dakota. Am I going to tell you why it's called Mount Rushmore? As far as certain carvings and a little bit of information about the specific men, Borglum modeled his Washington figure after the life mask created by French artist Jean-Antoine Houdon during a visit to Mount Vernon in 1785, as well as portraits by Rembrandt Peale and Gilbert Stuart. This is the most precise documentation of Washington's face. Now, Gutzon Borglum said this about Washington's sculpture. I deliberately carved the head in an upright position without the slightest tilting forward or backward or to either side to fix upon the mind of the observer the upright character of the man, Borglum said, but I found the figure was too still. I merely pivoted the body by cutting heading the left shoulder farther back into the mountain. It had the same effect as if the head itself had been turned. It has put more life into the figure. What do you think? Now, Jefferson was to be the first figure on the left as you face the memorial. As the initial carving proceeded, it was discovered that there was insufficient rock for the figure to be completed in that location, so the unfinished face was blasted away in 1934 and a new start made to the right of Washington. Partway through the carving of Jefferson in the new location, a major crack was revealed running through the nose at the right hand nostril. Borglum reset the head 5 degrees to the north, set it back 4 feet, and tilted the head about 18 inches. Finally, the crack just escaped the nostril. It still can be seen cutting down across the right eye, past the nose and upper lip, and through the middle of the chin. Do you see it? And then there's Theodore Roosevelt. Energetic, positive, and extremely self-confident, Roosevelt possessed a firm understanding of power, politics, and the role America could play in the world. He changed the relationship between government and industry, established a strong policy of conservation, influenced the construction of the Panama Canal, which helped make the United States a world power, and engineered the peace treaty ending the Russo-Japanese War, and for that action he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1906. To the people, he was the trustbuster and the man who carried a big stick. Borglum had known and admired Roosevelt and had done a bust of the president that was later used as a model for the carving at Mount Rushmore. Roosevelt once said, "If a monument is ever put up to me, I hope Goodson Borglum makes it." That's neat. I like that. The carving of Roosevelt proved to be among the most difficult of the 4 presidents. 75 feet of overlying rock was drilled and blasted away before suitable granite for carving was found. Theodore Roosevelt's famous glasses offered a chance for ingenuity. The artist managed to suggest the eyeglasses by merely carving a curved ridge under a part of the eye. Some visitors claim they can see the lenses and Abraham Lincoln. A major question confronting Borglum was whether to carve Lincoln with or without a beard. South Dakota Senator Norbeck, who had always been greatly impressed with Borglum's large, beardless head of Lincoln in the Capitol Rotunda in Washington, D.C., had urged him to carve a clean-shaven face. After studying Clark Mill's life mask of Lincoln, as well as many photographs, the sculptor elected to portray Lincoln with the beard he wore during his presidency. Hear, hear. One of Borglum's most notable refinements in the carvings was his treatment of the eyes. Concave depressions were carved so that the dark shadow gave the impression of depth. The pupils were represented by a shaft of granite, about 20 inches long, projecting from the sockets with its front surface ground smooth to reflect the light. As each figure was completed, the sculptor worked with his technique to achieve the lifelike expression that can be seen today. Mount Rushmore remains a major tourist destination, attracting more than 2 million visitors annually. The site includes a visitor center, museum exhibits, and a walking trail, and an amphitheater where events and ranger talks are held. It stands as a monumental work of art and engineering and continues to provoke reflection on American identity, our republic, and the nation's complex history. Since the weather was pathetic on Memorial Day, we spent time in the exhibit hall, appreciating the artifacts and reading about the sculpture. I recommend you plan at least 30 minutes for the exhibit hall. There are a couple of hiking trails and amazing photography opportunities. The historic viewing terrace is a nice place, even though the trees are beginning to seriously block the sculpture. The sculpture studio is reached after descending many flights of stairs and houses a 1:12 replica of Mount Rushmore. The Mount Rushmore monument has become a symbol of national identity, drawing over 2 million visitors annually who come to marvel at the engineering achievement. Mount Rushmore remains a significant part of the American landscape. By the way, this was our 4th trip to Rapid City to go to Mount Rushmore. This trip involved 2 days because we went on Memorial Day and the sculptures were in the spa and only peeked out for a few seconds. On the second day, there was a 2 or 3 hour window free of clouds and bathed in sunlight. Plan ahead and be prepared. Also, you will want to return for the evening lighting ceremony if possible. We weren't to do that this time, but had done so in the past, and I do highly recommend that. There is a parking fee of $10, but it is good for 1 year, so hang on to your ticket, and this is nice should you need to or desire to return. Don't forget to get your park passport stamped, and be sure to locate these frames to capture a photo of you with the president. I have just a couple more statistics to share. For each president on Mount Rushmore, the noses are 20 feet long, the eyes are 11 feet across, and the mouths are 18 feet. Wow! Let me briefly show you a couple sites in nearby Hill City. We found a great German restaurant, the world's largest Smoky Bear, and don't miss my video on the beginnings and final resting place of Smoky Bear. The link is in the description below. And lots of other neat shops to explore fossils and get flavored popcorn and sodas. Oh, yeah, that place that most people don't know about, I've got to tell you about that. when you get back in the car, leaving the parking garage and the parking lot and the parking area, and when you turn out onto the highway, take a right, and a half a mile down on the left, pull into the parking lot, and you will see the profile of George Washington. And this is what is so interesting about this spot that I think most people miss. George Washington's powerful profile is so perfectly placed here that you might assume that sculptor Gutzon Borglum planned it. Like many great events and feats, it was purely accidental. Borglum had intended to put Thomas Jefferson on Washington's right. Remember, I told you all about that. But the poor quality rock here forced him to change his design, and workers had already blocked out the rough features of Jefferson's face when Borglum decided to move him. The Jefferson carving was blasted away by dynamite and the rock smoothed, allowing for a clear view of Washington's profile from this spot. That worked out really great, didn't it? I really hope that every patriotic American can find their way to go and visit Mount Rushmore. It's breathtaking, it's compelling, it's truly amazing. We found this picture in the sculptor's studio. It's from Rise's Studios. It's an image of Mount Rushmore circa 1925, and this is where I'm going to finally tell you about why it's called Mount Rushmore. Well, there was this New York attorney, and his name was Charles Rushmore, and in 1884 and 1885, he was working on mining claims in the Black Hills. Two local prospectors he had befriended were with him one day, and when he was staring up in wonder at it, he asked what its name was. One replied that it had no name, and the other followed up with Rushmore Peak. And now we know. Mount Rushmore is named after Charles E. Rushmore. Ugly shoes on the ground. On Classic Road Trip. Please subscribe.